U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's planned departure has been known for about months. For President Barack Obama, deciding on a successor to one of America's most prominent political figures for the high-profile job was never going to be easy. Recent controversy has made the nomination progress even more complicated. We will discuss some of the names being circulated as possible Secretary of State nominees for Obama's second term. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Across America Talk. As usual, today we have China Daily's Chen, Weihua, and Zhou Boris with us to discuss three names being frequently mentioned by journalists and pundits as Clinton's possible successor. So Weihua and Zhou, I will ask you both about three of the names, but first off, of course, Susan Rice. She's now Washington's ambassador to the United Nations, and how many chances does she get?
Well, I think she is still seems to be considered Obama's top pick. But I mean, if you watch television and read newspaper, she obviously is the center of the debate. I mean, the Republicans, John McCain, other folks are going after her for sort of not telling the right story, calling the Benghazi attack as a terrorist plot. I think to me, that's not really the issue. I think there was other people responsible for that. But my personal view is there are probably other, better choices than Susan Rice.
Who are the better choices in your mind?
Well, I mean, personally, I think Susan Rice is tough, but I think she sort of lacks the soft side to me. I mean, based on my observation, her role at the United Nations, even when China and Russia vetoed that sort of resolution on Syria, and she literally said, the U.S. is disgusted with. I thought that kind of words is not very diplomatic, and this is a superpower. I mean, the only superpower in the world. You need top diplomats to have the skill of both the soft and the tough, skills to go around the world. So I think in that regard, Susan Rice lacks the soft side, and she's just too tough.
But if she makes a Secretary of State, what would that mean to China-U.S. relations, in your opinion?
Well, obviously, China-U.S. relation is the most important. It's a very complex relationship. So obviously, you cannot rely on hardline, tough stance only. You need all those skills. You see that actually from Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, from all the previous Secretary of States. I would think, there will be other candidates who are better handling this situations than Susan Rice.
Yeah, speaking of another candidate, of course, we want to talk about Kerry. Rumor has it that Clinton actually prefers Kerry, currently Massachusetts senator, for the job. For whatever reason, if Susan Rice doesn't get the job, does that mean Kerry would be the lucky person?
Well, there's been a lot of speculation kind of among Beltway journalists about this very matter, which is that if Kerry, who is the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and therefore will be in the interesting position of basically leading the interviews during the confirmation process for whoever might get the job that he clearly would like. He's made no secret of the fact in Washington that he would like to be nominated to run U.S. foreign policy on behalf of President Obama during his second term. But if that were to happen, if he were to be nominated, that would open a vacancy in the Senate, one that Republican Scott Brown, who was recently defeated by Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts, would be well poised to run for a special election and probably, have a good chance of winning. Which would chip away by one seat at the Democrats' narrow majority in the Senate. So I would probably agree with the Beltway insiders on this one that it's not something Democratic Party would like to have happen right now.
I think, it's very interesting because the name of Kerry actually surfaced very early, but later the Democrats were concerned about his Senate seat in Massachusetts being stolen by the Republican contenders. But now, actually, we're talking about the U.S. national interest. Should go much beyond the Democratic Party interest. So I think Obama should give more weight to the national interest rather than the party's interest. Mm-hmm. So I think Jiang Kerry is a much better candidate than Susan Rice.
Asia expert, right?
Yeah, I mean, the number one, Susan Rice has already caused enough debate among the Republican and Democrats. So it's going to make the divisive party politics even more partisan. So that's bad. I mean, that's the worst thing, the U.S. wants at this moment. And Jiang Kerry, on the other hand, is supported by the Republicans. You already have people like John McCain, other heavyweight GOP leaders talking about the support Jiang Kerry. So that will be a huge step towards, winning Republicans. And Jiang Kerry, as Joe mentioned, has been long-time chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee in Senate and has enormous experience. He ran for president in 2004, and he laid out his foreign policy. I think it's popular with the rest of the world, actually, more popular with the rest of the world than George W. Bush, who won the 2004 election, if you are asking the international voters. So I think John Kerry would be a great candidate as Secretary of State, and he commands all these much needed, I think, soft power. That's what Secretary of State should, present to the rest of the world. America, I think, have used too much of hard power, military, whatever. I think it's now the U.S. should rely more on soft power.
Well, since you just said that John Kerry might be a perfect option for the position, how about Jon Huntsman? He was ambassador to China under both Clinton and George W. Bush, and he is absolutely an Asian expert, and he knows China so well. What do you think of Jon Huntsman?
That would be great. That would be even great step towards bipartisanship for Obama. Obama nominated him for ambassador to China, and Obama actually kept Robert Gates as Secretary of Defense, during his first term. I think it's great for Jon Huntsman to be the Secretary of State. He already knows how to deal with this very important complex relationship with China. That to the U.S. is also one the most important, if not the most important relationship in the 21st century. So I think, this, again, a major step towards the bipartisanship. That's what we see today from the fiscal cliff and divisive Washington politics. What is the most needed in this country?
What do you think, Joe? Do you think Jon Huntsman would become a very strong addition if he's made a Clinton successor?
Well, certainly to the extent that, and this is to a large extent, that U.S.-China relations are, a real cornerstone of foreign policy in the second term, and I see no reason to doubt that it will be. Huntsman would seem to be a very wise choice. Larger foreign policy issues, I don't really know, but he would certainly sail through the confirmation hearings in the Senate. That there's no doubt in my mind about that. And what's more, by virtue of him being, say, out of the Republican field for 2016, it might make, Hillary Clinton's road to, the White House that much less complicated. I don't know how much, but it would be, conceivably another obstacle out of her way, because she has said that she is, according to, rumors, but some well-sourced rumors, I understand, she is definitely contemplating a presidential run again.
But how do you look at the role Clinton played in terms of China-U.S. relations in the past years?
Well, it seems like, tell me if I'm wrong, Weihua, but it seems like she's been a pretty good steward of the Obama administration's policy. She hasn't alienated anyone. She's a competent, experienced diplomat, and clearly kind of the consummate Washington insider. And I think she's generated a lot of trust among the Chinese leadership. And I think that's probably just what the president certainly would hope to replicate for the second term.
That sounds pretty positive. Any disagreements?
Well, I would say I wouldn't probably agree with what Secretary Clinton and has done over the years regarding China-U.S. relation. But I would say she's a very charismatic person, and she did a great job as Secretary of State. I think anyone who is going to succeed her and is going to have a big show to feel that's tough. I mean, so you really need to pick the right person in this country.
Okay, excellent input, and thank you so much both for coming to our studio and being with us. Thank you for watching. For more information, please go to ChinaDailyUSA.com. I'm Yuhan Liu. See you next week.
What is the most needed in this country?
What do you think, Zhou? Do you think Jon Huntsman?
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like she's done a pretty good steward of the Obama